Hydro field cuts through my neighborhood.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Fearlessly Authentic. We are coming to you earlier this Thursday. I'm here with Steve.
Howdy. I don't know if my mic's on there, but I think it is.
Yeah, I think your mic's on.
All right.
Yeah.
Hello.
And we have a special guest with us today. We're going to bring her right here. Hi, Courtney. I'm so glad to have you. So do you want to introduce yourself? Tell anyone that you are anything that you are willing to share publicly about yourself. I'm already tripping over my words.
Courtney, and I'm a 42-year-old adult human female. I have two kids. One is 20 and autistic, and one is 15 with temporal lobe ADHD. And I have to blame that on, honestly, both of them on pharma medications that they wouldn't let me off of at the time. So,
can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with your son who is dealing with autism?
Well, he started when he was born, he didn't speak until he was about 3. And so he obviously understood what we were saying, but he just wasn't able to articulate what he wanted. And so we ended up getting him a at-home therapist. And so that was something that was crucial to get him to actually be able to speak. So she would come to the house twice a week and try to get him to speak. And so over that year, he was able to get up to many words. And then he was enrolled in a 2-year Head Start program, which is like a pre-kindergarten for special needs. So that he could be prepared to go into kindergarten. And so that was a lot speech focused. And one of the things that they were measuring is, hand-eye coordination and all of those things. And he, after the 2 years, they deemed him okay enough to go to regular school. But then he got to regular school and they were like, there's a problem here. He's not telling us what he wants. He's not telling us what he needs. He's not explaining himself. There's an issue. And so by the time he was 7, he was diagnosed with autism. And so that was something that, I had already been spending all of this time knowing how to communicate with my child. And it just got, further and further through here. And so it was, I'm going to say it was not easy, but we got through it because he says that I speak autism now. So that's what he tells me, that I speak autism. He's somebody that even right now, like, he likes to communicate in one word. So we will have entire conversations with the word bear. So it's just voice inflection, intonation, things like that, and using the word bear to get across what we need to get across to each other and practicing in that way. And so it's the most interesting thing when you have a 20-year-old that's 6'2" and he comes in and he goes, bear, 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 bear. And so it's like he's still really attached to all of his plushy animals, and he still has a lot of issues with communication. He has a severe stutter. He doesn't, a lot of the times when he can't explain something, he'll just say, I can't word. And he'll kind of retreat inward a little bit. He still has even at 20, he still has the tendency to, when he experiences any form of cognitive dissonance, any form of conflicting emotion, anything that bothers him in any way that isn't pure happiness and light, he goes into a full meltdown. There were
That's got to
times,
be hard to. It's got
yeah,
to be hard to be a parent of a, you know what I mean. Like, I mean, obviously, as parents, we try to adapt and adapt in as many ways as we possibly can to give our kids, you know what I mean, the best communication skills that we can give them. You know,
yes,
that's it's got to be frustrating, just as you know, as just as a parent. Like, I'm just acknowledging that for you because, you know, like I feel like we don't get enough support as parents, like to you know what I mean, like what we have to kind of like the challenges that we have to overcome because we love our kids so much, you know?
yes.
So I think that that's just, that must be difficult. So at times. And
Yeah, I mean, they almost had to call an ambulance once at the therapist when he was 18 or 19 because he had curled himself up in a ball in the corner and was hyperventilating, would not move. And the therapy session was over and he was just stiff as a board. And you cannot move a 6'2" human being when they are determined that they're on that floor and they're staying there.
yeah, that's
And,
not gonna.
and
I mean, that would take a lot. That would take a lot of people, and that would
yeah,
probably escalate the entire situation so much worse.
yeah,
Like, yeah, like there are a ton of bricks at that point. Like, you're just not, you're not getting them to move.
yes, exactly. So trying to have conversations with him, you always got to come at it from a certain angle. You always have to come at it from a certain tone of voice. You can't, you know, because he gets upset just at the idea of having a conversation of any kind. And so, like, when I wanted to talk to him about what's going on now and have a long conversation with him about it to kind of understand, he freaked out and hung up the phone. And he's staying currently with my parents in New Jersey, so he can go to college there and hang around his friends. And they were on a walk, and I called them up and I said, he just hung up on me. Go check on him. And they ran back to the house, and he was in a ball on the bed, banging his head on the wall, and in hysterics. And it took them a good hour and a half to calm him down.
And that was just triggered by
Just, you want to have a conversation on it. Yeah, and I don't know how to talk about this. So
it's got to be hard having a distance between the two of you. You know what I mean?
yes,
You can't have just that regular in person, like face to face. You can, you know what I mean? Like you can't read it as the same way. You know what I
it's
mean?
just as
Especially
hard
on the
face to
phone.
face, because he will, you know, because again, the same thing would have happened if I would have went into his room and said, hey, can we talk about this? The same thing would have happened. So either way, it's difficult, but I do need, like, right now we're discussing how he can be here more often, because he doesn't want to be away from his friends, but I can't afford to live in New Jersey, and I physically, for my health, I can't be in New Jersey. And so as long as his friends are still there and he's still in this community college, he wants to move to Virginia, which will be easier. Because he wants to go to a school that is about video game programming down in Virginia. So in about a year, that's what he'll be doing. But for right now, he's, you know, he is back and forth, just not as often as I would like. And
So it seems like you're really trying to accommodate the situation, and he's still with family, so he's still getting family support through everything right now. But but there's something else that's happening with him at the same time.
Yes.
And that's what like, so just having an autistic child that and all of that, you know, like just that's that kind of sets the groundwork for, you know, like this is already a challenging thing as a parent, you know, and having to travel back and forth and you know, I mean, like he's trying to have independence but still remain with family, and you know, has aspirations, but at the same time he's getting caught up in some things.
Yes.
And so do you mind explaining a little bit of where what I'm hinting at right now?
Okay. Well, when he was 14, let's see, it came on all of a sudden. It was absolutely rapid onset. There was no discussion or mention of any of this before. What happened was he was fine. He was normal. Everything was fine. There was no mention of anything. He comes home from school one day, freshman year of high school, 14 years old. and says that a couple of kids and a teacher from the Pride Club approached him at lunch and said that he needed to be a member of the Pride Club because he was trans, because he liked Pink and My Little Pony. And therefore, he was not a boy, he was a girl. And therefore, he needed to be a girl and join the Pride Club. And he came home with this confused look on his face. Now, he doesn't remember any of this, any of it. But for me, it's like, it will not leave my head. And he
like it's burned. That moment
burned.
is like burned into your brain.
Yes,
because it's a pivotal moment. Even though for your child it might not have been a pivotal moment, it might have just been an ordinary conversation at school. But for you, the implication of that moment has seared in your brain for a reason.
Yes,
and so that's really important to acknowledge that that's there for a reason.
Yeah, he came in. And he looked so confused. And he said, Mom, I was told today, one of the teachers and a couple of the kids told me that I was trans. What is trans? So he had no idea what it even was. And then said that they said that he was a girl and not a boy. And so he was confused. And I said, well, why do they think you're a girl? Now, being in the theater my whole life, I have trans friends, I have gay friends, I have all of these friends that still do theater, even though I bowed out of it years ago. But I still have the friend group. So my whole thought was, okay, let's see what he thinks this means. Now, this was 2016 or 2017, somewhere in there. So it was in that era when everything started. But I wasn't aware of it at the time yet.
Well, and being a parent, you just like want to explore and understand like what your child is talking about.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, I'm seeking understanding. My child's saying something that I don't understand. So of course you're going to seek that information out, like just to gather the, you know what I mean? Like, and where does the parent go?
His explanation for this was they told him that trans meant that he was trans because he liked Pink and My Little Pony, and those were girl things. And therefore he was a girl. And therefore he was trans. And I said, yeah, but I like sports and sports cars and being in the dirt and not wearing dresses. So, and then he goes, but that would make you a boy, Mommy, right? Then why are you still a girl? And, having this whole conversation with him, it's all black and white to them.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, they don't understand the complications and the nuance that goes into something as complicated as gender identity.
Yeah, because autism looks very different in boys and in girls.
Yes.
It presents very differently. So like with boys, it is very distinct. Usually you can kind of tell, and they have very black and white thinking, but we're females, it is slightly different with autism. But like what you're describing is like, yep, it's very like on target for autism.
Yeah. So like all of his friends, I said to him, I said, all of your friends are male and they're straight. And you hate the fact that they're going on dates with these girls and these girls are a part of your social circle now. And like he had a full temper tantrum the year before that because his friends were worried too much about going on a homecoming date instead of the video games they were supposed to be playing together.
Yeah.
And so he was stomping up and down. Why do they care about all these girls? Girls are stupid. I hate girls. And so like this whole thing, I mean, he was 13 at that time. And even then he was like, I said to him, I was like, do you have any friends that are female? No, I hate girls. Okay. Do you like anything else that is feminine? No. I mean, I like Pink. I like My Little Pony, I prefer Princess Peach in Mario Brothers because she's prettier. Okay,
she can fly. I like her because she could fly.
I mean, if you're comparing Mario and Luigi, I mean, yeah, aesthetically, absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
So, but and so I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me. But it's like for him, everything else everything else that he likes and does would be considered a stereotype of male. And so even to this day, he wears men's only clothes and men's only shoes. And because he's autistic, he gets grown men's size 12 and a half wide shoes with no laces because he refuses to learn how to tie his shoes. And so he's
that
like,
sounds like my kind of kid.
Yeah.
You know?
So
I failed first grade because I wouldn't color in the lines the right way. You know, I feel like this is my crowd. I feel like he's, you know, he's in my crowd.
Yeah. I mean, this is the kid that he is. He cannot he's just not somebody that is like, when he spent the next few years, because it became an obsession, because somebody else told him, hey, you can change yourself to be somebody else now. And so to him, that was like the ultimate thing. It was like, really? I can be somebody else? I don't have to be me. I don't, you know. And he was doing things like having meltdowns at the public pool because he didn't like the way he looked in a swimsuit, and he didn't want people to see his bare chest because he thought that he was that his shoulders were too big and he was too fat. And he was never fat. He always had washboard abs, that kid, but he always thought he was fat. And he never liked his body. He thought, I'm too tall, I'm too ugly, I'm too fat, I have acne and that's ugly. You know, and he used to tell me all the time, I wish I looked like you. I look like my father. And I don't like it. I'm ugly. And I knew that this was all internal self-esteem issues and not a gender thing, because it was never like I can't stand, you know, the bottom part of myself.
Yeah.
I need to hide it. It was never that. It was never, you know, I want boobs. The whole thought of that freaks him out. Because he's like, oh, well, then I'll be fatter. Because that's fat. And so it's like, for him, it's all about this. It's all about the face. And more than anything else. And you know, and to him having to look like his father instead of like me or whatever. And that's been an obsession forever. So when somebody told him that he could be different if he was trans, he could be female, like mom.
Did you see what Devin said?
Let me see. Yeah. Yep. Because he's going through puberty, and puberty for any kid is
oh my god, it's yeah.
But when it comes to an autistic kid, it's even worse.
I remember like just feeling like really awkward and out of place, and like I didn't really like come into my own until I was more so into adulthood, like when my brain was more developed, like. But yeah, I remember as a kid, like I wore all like boys' clothes, like mostly in high school. Like I loved wearing like men's V-neck undershirts, like the white V-neck undershirt and a flannel and like wide-legged freaking skater pants and like, you know, skater shoes. And I would wear
combat boots.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I still have a pair of Doc Martens.
Timberlands, man.
I wore Doc Martens, and I still have a pair. I have a purple pair now.
Yes, the goth version of them. Yes.
Like my homecoming, so I had to wear a dress to my homecoming. Like I only went.
Oh, you gotta put those black Doc Martens on with the dress.
I totally did. I had Doc Martens, and I had like a purple satin dress, and like I wore a Grateful Dead t-shirt over the fucking dress. Okay, like I was a tomboy. Like I was like, this is as dressy as you're getting me.
Yes. I hated it. I hated every second of everything girly that I ever had to do. I was miserable.
But I don't mind dresses and stuff. Like I know we're getting off topic, but like, you know, like I wear them on occasion.
Renaissance fair, but that's it. That's the only dresses that I own. The dresses that I own are for Renaissance fairs. Oh, I'm sorry. And I bought a Jessica Rabbit dress for Halloween. So,
okay, I expect to see pictures in my DM later. Okay.
Oh my God, girl. I'm Jessica Rabbit's mom at this point, but still, I can get away with it. I think I can. I'm just so happy with who I am now. I think it took until I got to 40 to really get there. But being self-love is probably the most important thing. I think more than anything else. But, it was, when I was a kid, no, I had none. I had no self-esteem. I had no self-love. I had none of that stuff. So I understand where people are coming from, especially my son, simply because I've been through. I've been there. I've done that. And so it'll come out the other side. So now I can talk about it and explain how to get there easier instead of taking the long road that I did. Yeah.
I mean, we grew up in a time, being Gen X's, we were like against the labels. We were like, no, we were gender benders and we didn't want all the labels. So like, I feel like this, like we're surrounded by, like, we went backwards in time and it's like, we're like, no, where's the Gen X of this time? You know what I mean? Like we need the actual like Gen X of this time. Like, where is that? Because I feel like this stronghold that some of these people have on people that are targeted, like your son being autistic, you know what I mean? And just feeling uncomfortable within their body. And, like, I think that you're doing a good job at like allowing him the room to understand, and you're showing him with like clear, easy examples. Especially being autistic, you want to make sure that, you know what I mean, you're very black and white in what you say and it's factual, and you're bringing it to him in a way, that it's very clear and concise. But I mean, and you're also going through this at the same time. Well, you're not with him every day, and that's got to be tough.
I talk to him every day.
That's great.
Every day. Yeah. So, I mean, I can't go a day without his text in my in my phone. But yeah, I mean, he went through that whole thing and he became obsessed with it for quite some time. And then I was,
because it can become a special interest.
Yeah, because when you're autistic, you're just obsessive, just generally. You become obsessed with different things. So like he has an obsession with different types of video games, and he will obsess about it to a point where he can literally tell you the history of everyone who has ever owned Nintendo, their personal lives, what years they owned Nintendo, what their names are, when their birth dates are, when their death dates are. Like, he knows everything there is to know about that. And so years everything was created. Like, he once he goes down a hole, he doesn't come back up. And
like it's his special interest that he really is like. That's something that autistic people do, is that they usually like don't, when they like, some people will be like, well, why are you, why did I make 50 fucking dream catchers? Because it was my fucking special interest, and I made 50 of them because I couldn't not make 50 of them. Why did I make, like a million of this art piece? Well, because I couldn't not do it. Like, it becomes a thing. And I do that with my art as well. Like, I'll get super like into like one aspect of it for a while, and then I'll move on, and I'll go on, like I'll start painting everything, and then I'm like, okay, and then I and I do that as well. So like, I know these habits, and like, we really, when a topic like becomes like that interest for somebody who is on that spectrum, it becomes our interest. Like, you can't stop them. Like, it's in their head, and you just have to kind of like let that interest ride out, because it's just going to be there for as long as it's there.
I tried to play into it a little bit to try to prove to him that it wasn't his thing. And so what I would do is I sat there and I said, okay, you want to be more feminine? Let's go in my closet. We'll get some of these Renaissance fair skirts. You can start wearing those. Let's see if they fit. Do you want to wear some of my dresses, things like that? Yeah. Now, these are really loose fitting, comfortable things. He hated it. Hated it. put it on. Went, I hate this. I hate feeling there's air between my legs. I don't like it. Like that, because it's sensation. It's all about sensation for them. And so for him, it was like, I can't, no, give me my pants. Give me my pants. And so it was that. And then, the shirts. And he goes, why are they so tight here in the arms? And why are they so tight here in the waist? Because that's how women's clothes are fit. That's how women's clothes are fit. They are fit tighter in the arms, tighter in the waist, because that's how, women are built as compared to biological men that are wider in both of those.
Yeah, I sew and make clothing. So I patterns are very different between males and females. Like males are
our body
typically more boxy and we're more curvy, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah. So he did not like the fit of women's clothing. And so he was like, no. I'm going to stick with my male t-shirts and my male baggy long shorts that cover my legs. I'm fine. This is also a kid that will not wear pants in the winter. So he's one of those. He's one of those that you'll see wearing a hoodie and shorts.
Oh my God.
Yeah. In the snow. Just that is my kid, because it's comfortable. He doesn't care about being cold. He cares about being comfortable. And so it's I tried. Now he really liked getting his nails done, but he really hated how messed up they got afterwards, because
that's why I don't do mine. I don't do my nails because I can't keep, I don't like how it chips off or whatever, and I can't do fake nails. Like I tried those. I have a lot of the sensory issues. Like Lady Alex sends me the best clothes, though. I'm wearing one of Lady Alex, the shirts that she sent me right now.
He went to get his nail done, and trust me, that boy has the most beautiful hands. I wish I had that boy's hands and that boy's nails, because holy crap, I got the most masculine, fat, huge hands and ugly fingers that could possibly exist, and he's got these beautiful, slender fingers and these gorgeous shaped nails, and it's like, how dare you. But he's so we got that done, and then we went to Denny's because he wanted to go to Denny's, and within 5 minutes of Denny's, they were all chipped and the paint was coming off, and he just goes, Mom, can you take this paint off? It's annoying me now. So it lasted all of 20 minutes.
That sucks.
And we never got it done again.
Yeah, no, lesson learned, money spent, money wasted. You know what I mean? You spent money to realize that he just doesn't like that. Yes. That's the lesson in that, is that, he realized oh, okay, we're not going to do this anymore. So maybe that did save you some money, in the long run, because he won't want it again.
I want to do more feminine things. Okay, let's get you in feminine clothes. Let's do your nails. No. Okay, well then what else feminine is there? What else do you want to do that's so much more feminine? And here he goes going in go-karts and riding dirt bikes and shooting guns at Boy Scouts and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, sure, feminine. And so it's like all of these things are
not that females can't do those
not
things.
That females can't, but it's not something that
typically not always what unless you're a tomboy kind of
unless
deal,
you're a tomboy, which I definitely am. But I wasn't allowed in Boy Scouts. I had to do stupid Girl Scouts, or I had to do dumb things and sew and do all that crap until and sleepovers and that I hated until and we had to learn how to cook and all that stuff. And I was like, I quit. I want to go in the woods and build something.
I liked it all. That's the thing with me. It was really balanced. I liked the girly stuff, some of it, but not all of it. But I liked a lot of I love all the boy stuff too.
See, I was not that. I was completely masculine. Everything that I liked was masculine. But I do think a lot of it had to do with the fact that my stepfather raised me like a boy. I mean, it's like I had a lot of my mom was really not in the pictures as much, except for when she except for when she got horrified at what I was turning out to be and then tried to throw Barbies at me. And then talking dolls, which ended up on fire and on the lawn out the window. And things like, oh, no. It was not, I was not having the talking dolls. I was not having it. We were seeing the Chucky commercials on TV at that point. And my mom brings me talking dolls. I was like, no, thank you, Mom.
Yeah.
I think it's weird, like how everybody has all of these preconceived notions of what is masculine and what is feminine. Like even you just describing your childhood, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you only assign it that because that's the fucking the message that's drilled in our heads, you know what I mean? It's none of that is fucking real. Yeah. None of that is real at all. It's all made up. Just, you know what I mean? Right down to, you know, your son likes Pink and My Little Pony. You know what I mean? That doesn't make him a girl. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
All of those same stereotypes and same indoctrination, all of that has to be overcome. Like, because it's just bullshit. It's just absolute horseshit.
But that's what like, you know, that's where like I feel like there was people that paved that path to like not be in those gender stereotype norms and to break that mold. And I feel like that was supposed to happen during Gen X. And I feel like we started it and then I don't know what happened. We reverted because I feel like during that time
we're back to the 50s.
Like why do we have to have these very binary stereotype norms? Like I just don't fit in anybody's neat little box ever. Like I just never have. And I'm perfectly okay with that. And I think we need to, as a society, we need to be okay with that because we're seeing a result of not being okay with people just being who they are, that they feel like they have to physically change themselves like in a more drastic way. And there are some people who really, you know what I mean, are transsexuals that have felt that way since they were children.
But they all have the same symptoms. They all have the same reaction, the same symptoms, the same like everyone that I've ever spoken to that identifies as a transsexual all has the same experience. If you talk to them and they don't even know each other or anything, they will tell you the same story. It's the same story over and over. These are the symptoms I have. This is what I dealt with. This is how I react to this. This is how I react to that. And I'm seeing none of that in my kid. None of it. Not a single.
So how did he get like tied up? Like how did you go from him trying on clothes and like you know trying to use real life examples for him to kind of like, you know, are you sure this is what you want? Are you sure? Like you're kind of like kind of filtering it out for him, but he's still maintaining that same idea in his head throughout all of this?
No. What happened was he eventually got out of it. And then when he graduated high school, I moved. And so I waited for him to graduate. And my doctors had been pushing me to move further south for my health for several years at that point. And I wasn't able to really afford living in New Jersey at all anyway. And so I was able to buy a house in North Carolina. So it's a mobile home, but it's mine. And so I own it. It's mine. I can do whatever I want with it. And so he came with me for that first year. So the whole first year he came with me and everything was fine, but he missed his friends. So he missed all of his friends. And he really wanted to see them more often. So I was letting him go back every couple of months for a couple of weeks and seeing them. That wasn't good enough. And he got more and more devastated and finally said, Mom, I want to start college. Can I please go to the community college near Mom and Papa? And I'll just stay with them. And that way I can hang out with my friends while they're still there, because I know a few of them are going to be going off to 4-year school soon too in the next year. And so once that happens, I think it'll be a lot easier to bring him back totally. But while they're still in Jersey, it's difficult. And so he's like, I'm sad, I'm miserable, I'm anxious, I just want to go back there. I'm like, okay. So the deal was he was going to stay with me when he's not in school and stay there when he is. And so we've been kind of going with that for the most part. And so he went back there, and when he went back there, everything just reverted. And I think it's because my parents are people that, with me, they were against everything I ever did. And with him, they are just like, whatever you want, anything you want, whatever.
They're like, they turned into softies as they aged.
They did. And they got into this phase where it's like, anything you say, anything you want, it go ahead. So it's like they were not helpful. Because there was
detrimental to a child.
there was no barrier. There was no parenting. It was
like
just,
he needs structure as an autistic child. He needs that. A lot of autistic people thrive on having the structure and having that guidance.
Yeah. And he wasn't getting it. And so eventually, and then he got on Twitter. And guess who found him on Twitter? All the TRAs. And so apparently he said that some of them were sending him some of the, the really small or old outdated studies. So like the really small samples that they use, for their particular studies, instead of the larger sample studies that they ignore, they always use those tiny little sample studies. So that's what he was getting. And he was getting all of the misinformation from them. And then all of a sudden, his profile was now she, they. And he wanted to go to a gender counselor and start taking hormones.
Oh, man. How did that feel when you found that out? Like, just like that moment, encompass that moment, because I feel like that is something that parents need to hear.
It was kept from me for 3 months. Nobody said a word to me. Nothing. My parents didn't mention it. My kid didn't mention it because my kid knows, hey, mom was doing all of these things that didn't make me feel female. So, but this is what I want. So because I want it, I'm not going to tell my mother. Because my mother will do something that will make me not want it anymore. And I don't want that.
So yes. he knew at that time while he was doing it that you would not support it.
Yes.
He knew that you were he knew exactly the answer that you were going to give him. So how did he get to an actual gender clinic? How did that?
My parents drove him because to them, doctors are gods and they're never wrong. Doctors are never wrong. Even though, and when I found out from the Walgreens website that had emailed me about my son Alex needing a refill. And when I saw that there was estrogen and spironolactone, the testosterone blocker on there, I lost my mind. And I called my father and he said, he was supposed to tell you. I don't know why he didn't tell you. I
wonder why.
Yeah. Because he didn't want to have the conversation and he didn't want to explain it because he knew we couldn't explain it. He knew the explanation didn't exist. And so I yelled at my father because his whole thing was, well, these are doctors. Doctors know what they're doing. Doctors aren't going to do anything to hurt him. And I was like, excuse me, you should know better than that. Because for me, I am physically disabled. And my entire spinal cord is now in ruins. I have hardly any spine left. The doctors, when they look at my MRIs and things, say, how are you walking? I'm officially handicapped. I'm on disability because of it. And I have permanent nerve damage going down both my legs. I fall all the time.
I have permanent nerve damage as well. I get it. I get like when I had my spine completely collapsed. So
mine was caused from a misdiagnosis by doctors. Who gave
so the doctors literally misdiagnosed you, and your parents are completely aware of this, but they still have trust within those doctors.
That not only their misdiagnosis, but then prescribing me something off-label on top of that was not approved for this particular thing that they had diagnosed me with, caused my teeth to rot and fall out of my mouth, and then caused my spinal cord to disintegrate, and now I am permanently handicapped. A few of my doctors believe that same medication also caused, on top of that, also caused my autoimmune disorder. So they're looking for more evidence in it, but they do think that was what caused my autoimmune disorder on top of that.
Usually it's a traumatic event in the body that does cause an autoimmune disorder.
Simon's, the mycological genius guy of our time, has studies right now that show that you can literally repair nerve damage and brain damage with certain mycelium, with certain mushrooms. And it's like they're studying it. It's actually like proven. There's peer-reviewed studies on it and stuff.
I gotta look into that.
Yeah, it'd definitely be worth a while.
Because the doctors will not touch me at this point. I went to a specialist when I was 32, so 10 years ago, and they said, we can't touch it because you're too far gone. And anything that we do, it'll just disintegrate further, and so it'll be worthless, and nothing will ever heal. So you're just going to have to wait for there to be a bionic spine or something. And so we can make you comfortable. That's it. And it's gotten worse over the years. So yeah, it's getting worse and worse and worse to a point where they're like, yeah, by the time you're 60, you're going to be at home. Sorry. And so it's like, great. So, but my parents are like, no, they're doctors. They wouldn't harm you. Yes, they would.
The level of like dissonant, like that they have to have that disconnect is
well, they don't want to blame themselves. So for them, it's on them. And for me, it's on them as well. For me, I blame them also because they never looked into it.
I feel like Western medicine is like religion.
Yes.
You know? People are just like all the fuck in, and that's it. You can't question it. You can't say, well, isn't it weird how all of these statistics changed when we started giving all the kids this?
Okay,
all
be
of
careful.
these different things. You know what I'm saying? Without being, specific about anything.
Right. Yeah.
But that's a legitimate thing. People
because
are just
here
like,
they're in it for the buck.
The doctor knows.
We have a for-profit health system here, which is why in Europe, where they're repealing all of this stuff. And they're looking for evidence-based medicine instead of profit-based. So the profit is here. So they will do and have done and will harm anyone for a profit. That's just what they will do. So I don't go to a doctor now because of what happened to me without knowing what the medicines are, what they do, all of the rare side effects, everything, because it always the rarest side effects always hit me.
Me too.
So it's like they just put me on a nerve pain medicine. Guess what it did? Caused a rare kidney stone. So it's like, and they're like, that medicine, you got the rare side effect. Great. So
always. Yeah. I always have to look at the rare side effects of something and then weigh whether or not, to take that or not.
Yeah. So I had to have surgery again because they put me on something and they were like, and they never told me that you could get kidney stones. I had to look it up for myself. It was never mentioned. Of course,
consent is like gone out the window, and people don't realize that. And they say that a lot with like the people who detransition. It's like, wait, but many of them do not get informed consent as to what is happening. And like how you describe your son, how can your son consent to this medical treatment?
What they told him was horrific. So he went in. My dad brought him there. And his whole thing was like, he was there for 20 minutes, my dad said. 20 minutes. He walked in and he came out with a script for estrogen and spironolactone. And neither of which, of course, is FDA approved. Spironolactone is only approved for heart failure and things like that, because it's usually given to hospice patients who are already dying of heart failure, because it also causes liver failure, kidney failure, significant other issues. And so it's like, you're giving this to my kid? Like, estrogen in itself will lower the testosterone almost to zero. You don't need to do that. You don't need to put him on this extra medicine. And so it's like, I lost my mind. And then when I finally talked to him, he said, well, the only thing they really said to me, I walked in and I said, I'm on estrogen. And they said, well, you're going to need a testosterone blocker. And by the way, if you want to go through with this, you're never going to have kids. So I thought I should let you know that up front, because the likelihood that you're ever going to have children is 0. So here's a cup. If you want to go in the other room and give us a sample so that later on you might be able to have kids, do it now.
Did he do it?
No, he's never done that. He's not sexual. He's never been a sexual kid. He's too autistic. You know, he got a romantic crush on a boy in his class once. And so he knew that he had romantic feelings towards boys, and he's never felt that way towards girls. So I knew that he was that in this way he was gay. So, but he's never been sexual ever, not even with himself. And in fact, one of the things that he discussed with me, he said, if this estrogen makes me gain weight, I'm going off of it. If it gives me more acne, I'm going off of it. If it, and then I said, is there any benefit? And he goes, well, my skin is a little smoother. And the good thing that I like about it is that it doesn't work anymore. So I don't wake up with it working.
Oh,
which alleviates his anxiety. So for him, that's a good thing, because he's like, oh, okay, it can be there, but it doesn't have to be functional. Great. Because that's an embarrassment and an anxiety thing for him.
Like, not having control of his body's own reactions. And with a boy, obviously it's more noticeable when a boy is having a reaction. So like I always, I have no idea what it is like. I have no idea what it's like to have one, but he
says the sensation of it is uncomfortable and he hates the feeling. So the feeling is uncomfortable and he doesn't like the discomfort that comes with it. And so for him, the fact that he can that's not happening anymore is a good thing. And so I said, okay, well, how about this? You go off of the spironolactone because you don't need it. It's not safe. It's not, the estrogen will lower the testosterone almost to 0 anyway. And then here's where we're going to have another problem. The testosterone will be at 0. And then guess what? Your brain is going to cease to develop even further. You're only 20. You have 5 more years of development of your brain. You need that. So your brain is no longer going to develop. So, and not only that, but if your testosterone goes to 0, then your internal organs, such as your testes and things like that, could atrophy. And so I sent him the documentation of it. And then he's like, oh my God, that sounds painful. It is. Yeah. And you have to have surgery to remove the surgery. He freaked out at the thought of surgery. Totally freaked out. Does not like the idea of surgery. Scares him. And so anything involving that terrifies him. So he's like, okay, well, how do I stop that? And I said, you have to take, because I got this from Buck, the lovely Buck Angel, taking a small dose of testosterone like every other day for him would be enough to keep that up, just enough that it doesn't hit 0. So that he could still have those hormones allowing his brain to develop, allowing, his internal organs to stay healthy. But he can get the benefit of the estrogen to stop certain things from making him feel uncomfortable. Oh, man. And so that way he can still be healthy. And I tried to explain that to him, and he was like, oh, that doesn't sound bad. That sounds good to me. Because that way I can have this, but I'm not going to be sick. And I said, yes. And so he's a lot more on board with the whole thing. But I don't think he's going to be on the estrogen for very long. Because he's already gained, my parents said he's gained 8 pounds. And he's not noticed it yet. Just wait. Just wait till that goes up. So you can tell in his face because he gained it all on his face and his chin.
Is he getting like his face is redistributing where
It is
it has
redistributing now? He's got a giant round face, whereas before he did not, and he's not happy with that either.
So
He
maybe
does not like that his face is
that
now
is that is a more feminine feature. So maybe you need to gently point out that he's getting a rounder face, and that's something that females have. Does he like
said
that?
His face is a circle. And
No, well, what shape does he like better?
He wants to be an anime character. That's what he wants. He wants to be an anime character. He wants to be not human. He wants to be an anime character. He doesn't want to be a human male. That's just what it comes down to. It's not that he wants to be female. He doesn't want to be female. There isn't. He wants to be aesthetically better looking. That's what he wants. He wants something that is not something he's going to get. Just like my 15-year-old wants to be a robot fox. I mean, that's his new thing. I want to be a robot fox. I don't want to be a human. And it's like, okay, well, if the TRA said that way, I guess I'd be at the hospital getting him metal bones, and a tail surgically shoved up his anus or something. I don't know. Let's affirm the robot fox. There's something that's happening.
There's something that's happening, and it's happening across a lot of like particular demographics and in certain areas. And there are certain states that are also like really pushing all of this. Like there is certain states that are sanctuary states. So like where I'm at in Connecticut, we are a sanctuary state.
Yeah.
So California is. I know Massachusetts is. There's
New Jersey is trying to be. Yeah.
I think New Jersey is on the list.
They are
as
on
a sanctuary
list, but they
state.
have not passed it through Congress. There was an executive order, but it was not passed through Congress. So, but New Jersey is that. They have had a 4,000% jump in the last 2 years.
The numbers are
identifying as trans and non-binary. So yeah.
So at this point, you're trying to kind of like handle this as delicately as possible without like, I don't know what other word to use, but like besides triggering, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Besides triggering your do you refer to what do you use with your son still?
Oh yeah, okay. He has never been anything other.
Okay. I'm like, I didn't even, it's just natural instinct. You know what I mean? Like when you say son, I think he, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm just like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful in any way. You know what I mean? Like I try to be
feminine boy. He's more feminine than I am. But he's still not feminine. And so it's like, he's kind of like, this boy spends all his time greased up, taking apart computers and video game systems and putting them back together, and like that's his whole life. And he doesn't, he's obsessed with animals and obsessed with video games and learning the histories of things. And all he does with his friends is play video games. That's it. So it's not. He's right now. I'm just trying to make him happy, so that he's comfortable. He's more comfortable in his body, which is what the goal is. But I think the way he's going about it is incorrect, because I think based on the symptoms that he has just in general, he leans towards the most common autistic disorder out there, body dysmorphic disorder. And so I believe I had seen a statistic, 80% of people diagnosed with autism have dealt with body dysmorphic disorder. And that is something that is crucial to even be considered. Nobody's considering it. Nobody's even thinking about it. It's just all because he walks in there, and Buck asked me, he said, now, did he say I am a girl? And I said, no, he's never said it. He said, I want to be. And he goes, yeah. He doesn't have it. He wants to be something else. And he'll take whatever it is.
Yeah, kids are looking for an escape.
Yeah.
They're looking for an escape. And when that escape is presented to them in a way that they can get a whole community and they can get all the support and it's an outpouring of love and everything else. I mean, and all the attention in the world. You know what I mean? A lot of these kids are just seeking that they just want to find themselves, and I feel like they're just like they're lost out there. And there are people who you know who really are transsexual, and that like that their body. I want to say I always get them backwards. Is it body dysphoria? Right,
body dysmorphia and gender dysphoria. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I always get them backwards. That's my dyslexia. Like my brain like just flops stuff sometimes. But yeah, like the people who actually, you know what I mean, that it becomes so bad that the final step is to alleviate that, is to present as the opposite sex, and that helps alleviate it. But not everybody falls under that, and there's like an umbrella term, and then it's catching many people that aren't. And that's what's worrisome to me, is that it's catching a lot of people that have other things happening that are not that.
About the medical system is that they won't recognize body dysmorphia, it seems, unless you have anorexia and bulimia, which is only a small portion of people diagnosed with body dysmorphia. It's the more extreme version of body dysmorphia. When you take it into your own hands and you develop anorexia and bulimia, then that is a part of body dysmorphia, but only on the extreme end. And so they have stopped kind of recognizing it without it. And it's like, so unless you have anorexia and bulimia, they're not even going to consider body dysmorphia, even though that's at like in the rare circumstances section.
So they made it where to actually have to qualify for that, which is which more people deal with than,
in their brain anyway, because in the literature it's still under rare circumstances. So, but in their brains, it's like they're not considering that diagnosis unless those things present, and then they'll go, oh wait, maybe it's this.
I don't understand. This is all
I don't get it either, because to me it's clear.
Yeah. If it's mental, right? Yeah. If it's a mental thing that they're feeling it in their brain, and it's just a disconnect of their brain and their body and how how they perceive themselves.
Yes.
I don't understand how people are having surgeries to, you know what I mean? Like,
I think a lot of the non-binary people have body dysmorphic disorder, because a lot of them, especially the ones that are saying that they are non-binary, so they're having their breast removed to be non-binary. And it's like, and some of them are having their nipples removed, so they're not human. So they don't look human. And it's like, that's body dysmorphia. That's not gender dysmorphia. That's body dysmorphia. That's a totally different thing. That's not a gender issue. That's a totally different diagnosis. So, and it's treated very different. And so it's like, why are these people being allowed to go into the medical system and have their nipples removed because they don't feel like being human? Like, what is that? That's why are they not being treated for body dysmorphia, and they're sitting there thinking that they have gender issues when their issues are with who they are as humans and what they look like as a human? And so that's the thing that always bothers me, is it's like a lot of the people who are getting diagnosed with gender dysphoria don't have it. They have body dysmorphia, or they have, or they just have self-esteem issues, where they just feel, and a lot of them, unfortunately, are, especially in the female sector, which is why there's such a rise. I think they all have sexual trauma. And so when you have that sexual trauma, it is very, very common to say, well, if I wasn't a woman, this wouldn't have happened to me. And so if I'm a man, it's not going to happen to me again.
You hear the same stories over and over.
Yes.
Again.
And but that's not going to heal you from your sexual trauma. It's not. It's going to make it worse. And so it's like, and the doctors are not doing their job. They're not healing these patients. They're making them sicker.
Yeah, I agree. And it's really hard to watch, and it's really hard to see it, and to actually care about people and want, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Want them to be okay and want them to be better. And then, you know, when you do speak up, you just get completely raked through the freaking coals, and you know the names that you're called. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Every day the same things, even though, like, if I didn't speak out about this would mean that I didn't care. Speaking out about it means that I do care. It's really, it comes from a place of actually caring. You and I want people to get the right treatment.
Yeah, I want people to get what they need to have, not what they want to have. And there's a big difference when people are, you know, self-IDing as something. And if you're self-IDing, and it's easy to self-ID, and you can and then with that self-ID, you can, you know, just become part of a protected class.
My son has never been diagnosed with gender dysphoria, by the way. Never. None of his doctors agree that he has gender dysphoria, but have gone along with this anyway. Yeah. And so, because now the whole thing is you don't have to have gender dysphoria to be trans, which is a lie that they have the doctors going along with.
I'm so blown away by all of this. And, you know, I remember it was just like the transsexuals just needed support to be, you know what I mean? Like when they were added to the LGBT, you know what I mean? It was just about like offering them support because they were also a marginalized community, you know? But now all these other acronyms have been added on, which aren't even about sexuality.
No, they're all
and transsexual isn't about transsexuality either. Transsexual, what it really means,
I only know like one or two legitimate transsexuals that would qualify as straight. Almost every single one of them is LGBT.
Yeah,
almost every single one.
Yeah.
And so there's
extremely rare that they're not. It's rare.
So rare. Yeah, it's so rare to be a biologically straight transsexual. It's extremely rare. And so the only one that I know that is major would probably be Marcus Dip. And other than that, I mean, no. I mean, it's because it is tied generally. It's tied to the LGBT in the trans, as far as what I have seen. And so when it comes to a transsexual, however, what this transgender thing is just whoever says it is, and that's just it. And I don't understand why that's being allowed, other than to make as much profit for as many companies as humanly possible. Because it's doing nothing but damage. It's damaging the culture. Now we have a right-wing backlash that is getting worse by the day, where they are coming along and saying, okay, well, now adults can't dress the way they want. Let's try to pass that. And, you know, and we want to try, and then, you know, certain activists are saying we want to ban transitioning for adults. And it's like, no. Why are we going this far? Why are we going? Because
the pendulum is swinging, and it's gone too far it's gone too far one direction, so it's swinging back the other direction. That's what we're witnessing right now.
Yeah.
And depending on where we find the center balance in this is going to be very crucial, because there are people that need the hormone replacement therapy.
Yes.
There are intersex individuals. There are individuals who have already transitioned. They need to be able to maintain the medical care that they have while things are sorted out. It doesn't need to be taken away from anybody. Like, I am not advocating for that. I am advocating for people to have informed consent.
And I
to know what they're taking and know all of the risks.
Gender dysphoria, to not be able to transition and not be able to be on these medicines, simply because they have other psychological issues that need to be treated. Those need to be treated for what they are, for the symptoms that they are, and the people who are transsexuals with gender dysphoria need to be treated as such. And so, but there's so many people now that are not trans that are saying that they are. And a lot of them, honestly, you know, the big voices that are causing most of the problems are biological males who are generally straight. And so they have been causing, I'm going to say, the bulk of the issues, simply because they're the ones trying to get into women's bathrooms, the ones trying to say that you can no longer, you no longer have consent for sex. You know, there is no such thing as consent. You're just a phobe. You know, it's all of this,
and it's actually lost, like actually calling people calling people bigots or transphobic or homophobic or just, you know, TERFs or whatever all the time. All that is doing is making those words null and void, and they're losing all meaning. So when we actually have somebody who comes in and is full of hate and does want to harm people that are transsexuals or transgender, like, I do not wish any harm on anybody.
We saw one of those not that long ago.
Yes, we did. We were in a spaces, and somebody came in and they wanted violence on people who were transsexuals. They wanted that harm to be caused. There were people that yelled at us and told us that we belong in prison. Like, that is actually on a recorded spaces. If you want to see it, you know, if you DM me on Twitter or whatever, I can get that to anybody. It's like a 5-hour space that we did. But yeah, it was like absolutely like, oh, and my phone kept overheating and I kept getting booted out.
Yes, you did.
I would be like texting like Logic, like, who was my co-host, and I'm like, I got booted again, and poor Karen's in there and she's not feeling well. But like, we had an amazing space. Like,
I had to walk away a few times. Like, I had to actually put my phone down and go in the other room and do stuff because it was just too much for me.
It's a lot. It's a real, like, and I told everybody, like, I'm going to make up a disclosure for like the next one. We're doing one on Saturday night about being bisexual. And I'm going to put a disclosure, like, this is a place where we're going to be real and raw conversation. If you are sensitive in any way, this might not be the place for you to listen. You know what I mean? And it's no offense to anybody, but, you know, like, the only way that we are going to find a solution to these problems is finding the offensive. It's finding where that line in the sand is drawn. And so we can walk right up to it. And if we don't like push things, then we never find out where that line of offense is, where it becomes offensive. So, you know, like, it's not easy to be in some of those conversations like that. Because there are people that have views that are very, like, you know, we had like almost like every kind of like view and background in one space. And it was really intense at times. There are really people that really hate transsexuals, that really want to cause them harm. And that's not where we're coming from.
Not at all.
Not what we're about at all. If somebody really is transsexual, I want them to get the help that they need.
Transsexuals, like, to me, they're just insulting and mocking and spitting on legitimate transsexuals. They're not a part of it. They're making fun of them. And for me, it's like, it's a horrific thing to see, because it's like, to me, it's something that is awful, because for me, it's almost as bad as just genuine hate, because it's like, you're mocking what it means to have this disorder. So I don't see it any differently than if somebody walked up one day and said, we're changing all of the laws so that schizophrenics now, you have to acknowledge the voices that the schizophrenics are talking to is valid. And you have to start telling, you know, and then everybody is just allowed to say they have schizophrenia, whether they hear voices or not.
Yeah,
They're
they can just
say that they have schizophrenia.
They can self-diagnose now.
yes, they can self-diagnose as schizophrenics, and you have to acknowledge the voices they're speaking to as real. And if you do not do that, you're a bigot and a phobe.
I would be in trouble because I dated a couple of schizophrenics. It did not last very long. Yeah. One of them I'm still I'm still friends with. I've been friends with this person since I was like a teenager. But yeah,
but for me,
that would be extremely difficult. You know,
it's a mockery. It's a sham. It's a mockery of a real illness. It's a mockery of a real serious problem that people have to deal with on a regular basis, and that they have to suffer from, and that they need medical treatment for. And so for me, whatever it's the same thing as us doing that with schizophrenia. To me, there's no difference. It's somebody, like, I actually saw a video of a woman with Tourette's on TikTok who said that people on TikTok are pretending to have Tourette's now, and self-IDing is Tourette's.
Yep.
And so it's like,
and they're getting caught. And they're getting caught.
It's a mockery of a real illness. And for me, it's like all of these TRAs, all of these things, they are mocking a legitimate, mental disorder that is real and needs to be taken seriously. And it bothers me to no end, because then I get called a transphobe and I get called a bigot, and it's like, I'm the only one taking it seriously. You guys are spitting on it, stepping on it, and walking all over it and making fun of it every single day. Like, it's not real.
It shouldn't be that it shouldn't be self-ID, because then that leaves a lot of people out, because there are people that deal with this condition that can't have the medications for whatever reason. So like they get left out of the conversation a lot. And like, and
usually other medical disorders that prevent them from safely being able to take those medicines and those treatments.
Yeah. So like there are people that
so bad for that.
So we need to have compassion for, the fact that there are people out there that can't take these medications and can't transition, and they still deal with this condition. And so it's really difficult for people, I
can't even imagine not being able to have that relief. And so having to use just pure therapy, like, for me, that's awful. They need to make safer medications for people like that. Seriously. Just because it is unacceptable that they're falling through the cracks. Yeah.
They're so rare within a very
rare subset,
small amount of people. Yeah. So, it's so like the loudest gets the grease. So, I think that we need to always remember that there are people that are falling through the cracks with this. There are people that can't afford to get the care that they need. I think that it's criminal that you can get care for, gender ideology very easily. And there's gender clinics everywhere, but you can't get regular medical care in the United States unless you can pay or you have insurance, and that's a form of payment. You know what I mean? That's not actual care. You know what I mean? But it just allows you to go to a doctor.
I had a conversation with my gynecologist last week because I had to go there for my depot shot. I'm on that because I have PCOS and I have severe cysts on my ovaries. And I have PCOS as well. Yeah, I have wanted to get rid of my ovaries for years and years and years and years and years, so that I could be free of this pain. Okay. So instead, they have to stop my ovaries from working. And even then, I will still every once in a while develop a small cyst. And so, but they don't function anymore because of all of this medication that they give me. And so, but I have wanted to just get rid of it, and they refuse to allow it. It's not medically necessary. So I said to my gynecologist, I said, how likely do you think it would be that this surgery that I am not allowed to get, because they will not approve it, no matter how many cysts I get, no matter how many times they explode, causing damage to my ovaries, how quickly do you think I could get my ovaries removed if I said I was a man? And she looked at me she didn't laugh, she didn't smirk, she just looked right at me and said, you could get that done in about a month if you said you were a man.
Imagine that.
Mm-hmm. She was that serious. She's like, yeah, if you really wanted to get it done, that's probably the way I would do it. Just tell people you're a man. You don't have to transition nowadays anyway. Just tell people you're a man and say the first thing you want is a hysterectomy. And go get it. And then identify as a woman again. That's how messed up the system is. That my doctor was literally saying to me, yes, you can't get this approved for this, but if you identify as a man, you'll have them out in about a month. So I just think that our medical system needs a serious overhaul at this point, because if that's the case, then we have a lot more issues that we have to deal with.
I think what we're seeing is the reflection of a sick society right now.
Yeah.
Our society is sick, and this is like our society screaming out to us. And I see it in many ways. I see it not only in the transgender care. I see it when it comes to people faking illnesses.
Yes.
People saying that they're autistic and they haven't had a diagnosis from a doctor. But then, can they even go get a diagnosis from a doctor? Can they be seen by a doctor? No, not like unless they have insurance or can pay out of pocket. You know what I mean? Unless there is some way for them to be able to see a doctor, because not every state has, like California has CalCare and stuff like that. So like if you're low income, you can have healthcare. But that's not everywhere. Not every state has that. So, there's a lot of people that are doing self-diagnosis, a lot of people that are, oh, I'm this or I'm that. And then a lot of people use those as buffers. They're faking illnesses. And so I think what we're seeing is a breakdown of our society right now.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of sad because people just need to be heard. We need to come together as a society. We need to figure out how to support each other. And what we're doing right now isn't working. It's just really, I don't even, I feel like I can scream this into the void as much as possible, but unless mass amounts of people wake up to this, to become aware that like our society right now is like, is like having a fit. Like our society is like having an absolute tantrum. Like you were saying, like your son is like, over 6 feet tall, and just like if he lays in a ball on the floor, he's not moving.
No.
And I feel like that's kind of like a prime example, you know what I mean, of what is happening right now. And we're seeing the stress from it. We're seeing the stress from so many other factors happening, and people are coming out because they are more accepted right now. But then also there's other people that are self-diagnosing, and like there's so much hate and there's so much division, and I feel like we're seeing the stress.
Self-diagnosis. That's where it's coming from. It's coming from divorcing ourselves from what we need to be doing for ourselves,
from reality. Really,
we're very reality of life, and that there are other illnesses that you could be suffering from, but they don't want to. A lot of times they don't want to acknowledge that they have a mental illness of one kind or another. So one of the things that I find disturbing about gender dysphoria is that they keep saying, even though it's in the DSM and has been for decades and decades and decades and decades, it's not a mental illness. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It is a mental disorder. It is something where your brain is telling your body something that is not accurate. And so, and almost every single person that I have talked to has said, I wish I wasn't this. I wish I did not have gender dysphoria, because things would be so much easier if I didn't. But my brain is wired that way. That's a disorder. That's a mental disorder. So to say it's not, then gives people, even though it's in the DSM with everything else that is, gives people this license to be like, see, it's not a mental disorder. They said so. Who cares if it's in the DSM with everything else? It's not a mental. Yes, it is. It is a limitation placed on your brain. So they're okay with that because of that. but then they're not okay with maybe having borderline personality disorder, or maybe having, you know, something else going on with them, because that's a real psychiatric diagnosis. And it's like, yeah, but that's treatable. There are things that are treatable, and there are things that can get you through this. And so, like, one person that I know that has been living as trans for a long time is not trans. And the reason why I know that is because I'm going to refer to her as she, because she fully presents as a she. She is biologically male, but absolutely presents as a she. And started the transition at 20, okay, which is too young. It really is, because you're not brain developed enough. So she started it at 20, and by 25, she said, I don't know if I want to be trans anymore. I think I just want to go back to being non-binary, because I'm fine being actually a boy. And it's like, well, now you look exactly like a girl. You can't look like a boy if you tried anymore. There's nothing you can do to make yourself look like a boy. And she goes, well, I still have this. And it's like, and she's like, and I'm fine with that. I'm going to start taking pictures of me and that and letting it hang out and do it. And I'm like, yeah, you're not trans. You're not. If you're proud of this now and you want to start showing it off and you want to start saying you're non-binary, now this is somebody with very untreated borderline personality disorder.
That's really hard.
Who is very violent and very vicious. And so it does not surprise me that all of a sudden, after 4 or 5 years of being trans, they're now non-binary, even though they present wholly female, and now want to, you know, normalize the bulge. Is that the bulge?
Shout out to Charlotte.
Yeah, shout out to Charlotte. Stop the bulge.
We'll put a link to Charlotte's Twitter if you want to get
merch.
If you want to get a t-shirt from Charlotte.
It's my favorite new shirt. But yeah, I mean, like,
you should save the timestamp that we're at right now, so you know where to go back, so we can make Charlotte a little commercial.
Sounds good to me. But yes, it's that kind of stuff that I'm seeing from people. I mean, like, for so long, this was a trans woman who looks exactly exactly feminine, like, and then all of a sudden, now I'm a they them. And you're going to call me they, them, and I'm going to shave my hair off, and I'm going to be a lot more masculine. And it's like, okay, but now you look like a woman who's trying too hard. Because you went through a full transition. And now you don't look male at all.
Well, I hope that they find their inner peace and their happiness with everything. That's got to be a difficult thing to go through.
A hard thing. It's a hard thing for her because she's got sexual trauma. She's got borderline personality disorder. All of these things, drug abuse, things like that. Things that she really needs help for, that she doesn't want to get help for, and has made that very clear. She said, I do not like being told what to do. I do not want to get help for any of this. I want to be happy. And for me, being happy is exploiting myself sexually and taking as many drugs as I can, and just, you know, letting my disorder roam free. For me, that's happy.
Oh,
yes, it's sad.
It's hard to watch somebody that you know.
Yeah.
Going through something like that, and like, you really, I mean, like, honestly, there's not much that you can do as a, you know what I mean, you can't force them to do something that they don't want to do, and we can't make them like understand that what they're doing, you know what I mean, sometimes might be toxic. It's a really hard place to be in when you're seeing somebody really struggle through things, like, so that's gotta be hard.
It's, for me, it's like, she's so much younger than me too, that it's like a motherly thing for me, and I feel like her mother's enabling her and just kind of going with whatever she wants, and not helping her. And I feel like it's like, for me, it's like I had to take several steps back simply because it was too much for me, and I want to help, and I know I can't, because she doesn't want to help. So and she got mad at me a lot of times when so she's one of the people recently who has decided to call me a transphobe and a bigot. Because
I don't think you're a transphobe or a bigot at all.
No,
and I'll tell people the first time you hear that, it kind of like you're like, whoa, what the hell? Like what? I mean, like then like you get it just becomes like a insult, like, oh, you're stupid at this point because you get told it and you're like, but I'm not saying anything that's hateful. I'm not you call it out and they're just like, well, you're just this, and it's like it becomes like that. Just my opinion is just different than yours, and you just don't
words
like
are now violence.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm with Chris Rock that says anybody who says words are violence have never been punched in the face.
Yeah. So moving forward with your son now, how are you, like where are you at now and like what is your plan forward?
Well, the plan is I am going to file I'm filling out the paperwork now for a filing fee waiver. And I am going to file for limited guardianship that is going to cover health care and finances, the two things that he can't handle for sure. And so I don't want him to feel like he's under a massive conservatorship. I want him to still feel like he's free. But
like he still has some
but he also knows that he can't do this. And I had the conversation with him, and he just got paperwork from the gender doctor who sent him a file, so that he can sign over, so that he can sign a release so that I can talk to them. And then we're still waiting on the psychologist who he's been going to since he was 12. I have told my father that the doctor, that the psychiatrist that he's going to needs to be changed immediately. I did not like how, and I still do not like how she thinks it's perfectly acceptable to not have gender dysphoria and yet be trans. That to me is not acceptable for a doctor, for a medical doctor. No.
Because it's not based in reality. It's not.
And so for me, a doctor has to be based in reality and science. And so Buck had recommended a few groups that I found one doctor that does this GenSpect therapy. Mm-hmm. And there's one doctor in New Jersey that does this. And so
New Jersey's a big state. Is it anywhere close to where you are?
They do televisits.
Well, that's good that they do, because New Jersey is a big state. I've driven through New Jersey.
It's not a wide state, but it's about an hour wide. But it's very tall. It's 5 hours tall.
Yeah, I used to live in southern New Jersey in Claremont, and my grandparents lived in Trenton, and so I've driven through all of New Jersey several times. Like,
you were on the West Coast, I was on the East Coast.
I once hitchhiked from Trenton to East Brunswick and didn't get a ride.
Oh damn!
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah, I can imagine. Holy crap!
Yeah.
When you enter New Jersey though from New York, it hits you. You smell that you are near marshland.
I had to drop my kids off when I went on. I went to New York and I was dropping my kids off so they could spend a few weeks with my parents. And I was headed to New York, and I was like, all right, in and out. As soon as I went from Delaware to Jersey, it was like this huge wave of depression just hit me. It was like this, just this.
Sorry, New Jersey, you have beautiful shores and beautiful places, but yeah, some of it is very depressing.
Yeah, it's 40 years too long, and it was too much for me, and I just can't do it anymore. I can't be in that state because it's just. It's for me, it's memories and trauma, like all of it. Like the whole state is just memories and trauma. So I can't deal with it when I go in, and I kind of, as soon as I can get out, the better. And so, yeah, I was going to New York, and I So I dropped them off, and I felt like crap the whole time I was in New Jersey. Went up the Garden State Parkway, and I was like, oh God, because it was just all coming back. So
it's funny how, a place or a smell can really bring back your memories of what's happened in that area.
Exactly. And I had to
pass so you said, back to what you were saying there's a
Gen Spec counselor,
Gen Spec counselor that is in the state of New Jersey, so like they
can
do
telehealth.
They can do telehealth for your son now. Now what is the goal with them? Is it to try to get them to come off of the meds, or
they actually will evaluate you properly? So their whole goal is to see if you really do have gender dysphoria, or if you have something else, and what you actually have. So they usually take people who think they have gender dysphoria, or are on a treatment, and like their parents, are like, this is not it. And they'll go to this, and they will actually delve in. And so this guy is more letters next to his name than I've ever seen. And he's a gay man that does this on a regular basis. This is what he does. And he goes and he determines whether or not you are legitimately transsexual, or if you have something else going on. And whatever treatment you get is what you genuinely have.
So you get a proper diagnosis and evaluation.
So if you do have gender dysphoria, he will treat that. But if you don't, he'll let you know. And he'll say, this is what's going on with you. So I understand this is what you want, but that's not what's going on. You can't change who you are, because, so this is what your diagnosis actually is. Let me explain it to you. Let me go through step by step. So yeah, they're very clinical and very detailed, and let people know exactly what's going on. And they do full in-depth, like several sessions to figure out what's going on, not just one little 20-minute interview. Do you know what I mean? Like several weeks of sessions.
That's just crazy that, it used to be that, the transsexuals that I, that the one that I knew, 15, 16 years ago, it was that you had to go through like a proper evaluation and counseling,
years of counseling,
years, and then like living as that, and then also, there was a whole gate cap process. So there wasn't a lot of people who detransitioned because it was gate cap, and it was properly done. And I think that's what needs to happen again. I didn't even know that it had changed into this self-ID thing until like more recently in the last couple of years. And I'm just like, this doesn't that's when
it changed.
Right.
It changed somewhere around 2017, 2018, because it was 2016, the year after the rights were gained, that the HRC went from having $58 million in donations to $10 million in donations for a year, and went, oh no, we need a new cause. So let's come up with something else, because look at this massive drop. And then the year after that, they went up to $110 million because they had decided to pick trans and to push the gender ideology of the 50s and 60s as their platform for it.
So, how soon does your son get the appointment for that?
Still waiting to hear back. So, but the steps are in place. It's just going to be, time to get through it. So he feels awkward getting off of the medication right now, the spironolactone. So he wants me to talk to the doctor. So in about a week and a half, when she comes back, I will be talking to her and being like, hell no. This is dangerous for my kid. However, he has started taking the every other day testosterone because he recognizes that that's important, especially while he's on there to stay healthy.
Well, and that's good.
Yes. And so I'm like, I'm going to have a field day with this woman because apparently one of the things that she had said to my son was that they don't diagnose, they don't care, as long as you come in and say, hey, I want this medicine, they give it to you. So you have to fill out your forms so that if it's covered, it can be covered, and if it's not, it can be paid for, but they'll just give it to you just because you want it. They figure if you're willing to show up and ask for the medication, therefore that's good enough.
Wow.
Yeah. Because it's not their responsibility. It's other doctors' responsibility.
There's nothing else that you get to do that. I don't get to go to a doctor and be like, yeah, I have autism now, give me something for that. Or I have ADHD, give me something for that. Or you know what I mean? Even with depression, you have to go through an evaluation. There's a checklist. There's certain standards that you have to meet. Like,
not with this. I want it, give it to me. Okay. It's highly disturbing. It's something that honestly needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. And I don't know how we're going to get it to stop. That's the part that scares me. I think we're going to have a lot more detransitioner stories, unfortunately.
I think the lawsuits are going to, the lawsuits will do that. I think that as this hits more people, as this hits closer to home with more people, I think that will also do it. I've had people that were like coming at me and saying to me, well, why are you covering this so much? Why are you covering that? Like, why do you care about this so much?
Important.
And then I had people come to me, the same people, and say, I now have people in my life, just weeks after they asked me that. I now have people in my life that are, you know, kids that are identifying as trans. So in real time, they get to see why.
Yeah.
And you know, like, I'm really trying to understand this topic as best I can. It's really been a huge focus for me. And because I've always been about protecting women and children, that has just always been something that I've always had my focus on within my community, long before I made a YouTube channel and Rumble, you know, like long before I started streaming. I have been an advocate for women and children and in my community and doing it. And I just see what's happening. And I'm like, I cannot be quiet about this. I can't, because I see people being harmed. And as a mother, as a woman in society, I see that we need to be taking better care of each other. We need to unite with each other. We need to do things differently than what we're doing right now, because it's not working. It's really not. And I can't sit idly by and be quiet about it while I see harm coming to people.
I get asked the same thing. I get asked, why do you care? Why do you care? Does it affect you? It's like, yeah, it does. It directly affects me. It directly affects me because it's directly affecting my children. It directly affects me as a woman. So, like, I have sexual trauma myself, and I have partner violence trauma.
Me too.
And so I cannot. If I went into a bathroom and there was a 6-foot man with a beard coming in, wearing a dress, I don't know how I would react.
Imagine how someone might harm your son. And
I would have, yes.
If he did
want
to put a dress on.
Panic attack. And honestly, there have been times when I've had panic attacks where when people touch me, they regret it when I'm having panic attacks, especially when they're PTSD related. And so it's not something that is, it's not something that should be happening and putting women who have been through those things into that position. That's not inclusivity. Inclusivity is including transsexual females who, for all intents and purposes, would look out of place in a men's room. And so, and they're not people who are, you know, they are clinically diagnosed. And I agree that these people are not the dangerous ones. The dangerous ones are the self-IDers who are getting away with it, who are not transitioning.
But now people are even able to go to the doctor though with their own self-diagnosis.
Yes.
So like they're kind of taking that tool where the doctor actually it could be held, you know what I mean, should be held accountable if they're misdiagnosing somebody. They're allowing a self-ID to ID themselves at the with the doctor. So like
I couldn't sue for my misdiagnosis because they said that it was a legitimate thought process, even though I didn't fit any of the criteria. It was a legitimate thing for them to think. So the fact that they didn't even question it for 20 years, and I had to do it, and I had to do all the research, and I had to figure out what was wrong with me myself. And then I had to advocate for myself with the doctor and tell them to get me off the medication that was harming me and that had caused all of this harm. They're not responsible for any of that. No, because they had a good faith belief. How do you know that? Because they're doctors. They had a good faith belief.
So what is what do you plan on doing with your son going forward? Like what, like you're just going to get him that evaluation?
Yeah, I'm going to get him the evaluation. I'm going to get him under a limited guardianship so that I can actually control his medical. And unfortunately, he's just not capable. I mean, I had a lot of people going, "Oh, he's 20 years old. He's an adult with a mind of a child." He's a 20-year-old with a mind of a child who has temper tantrums and meltdowns and bangs his head and can't form full sentences unless he's typing. And so this is not a 20-year-old human being. This is like, a 14-year-old at best with really bad communication issues. So you're the people that were coming at me with that were just, and then of course the people who said, "Oh, well, you abandoned your kid." It's like, no, I didn't. My kid wanted to be near his friends. And I'm sorry, you're going to sit there. My only other option was, no, you're staying here and I will imprison you. It's like, I will imprison you, so you stay here. Why would I do that? That's a horrible thing to do, to force your kid to be away from his friends. Like, why would a good parent do that? And so, of course, the other criticism was, oh, well, where's his father? Let me explain that. His father is an abusive bag who lives in Florida with, abusing his new wife right now. He is, he has to pay child support until Alex's 21st birthday. But he had his parental rights revoked when Alex was 11, and he picked him up and threw him down in a store with a surveillance camera and took his boot and put it on his throat.
Oh my God, that's awful.
He had his parental right revoked. I have not dated people because the people that seem to be interested in me are people like that. And so it's easier to be alone and have the male support from my father than it is to have an abusive husband in the household. Yeah. So I just wanted to address the crap that I was getting over this situation because it was just ridiculous, some of the things I was hearing. It's like, not every man is a good man. Okay.
Oh, are you talking about when you shared your story on social media? You got a lot of positive feedback from your post.
I did.
But you also, of course, with that comes the people that are going to try to pick apart you because they don't like what you're saying.
Yeah.
And it doesn't affirm their ideology that they, that they are, in tune with.
Yeah.
And that's their problem. That's their problem. You understand that though, right? Like that is their own issue that they are outwardly showing that is a them problem. That is not a Courtney problem. That is a them problem. They have their own issue that they are blatantly displaying for all of social media to see.
Yes.
So like you know, like please remember that is not you know, like their attacks on you, that is a reflection on them. That's not a reflection on you.
Yes. You know, you can attack me for a lot of things, but when you attack me about my kids, that just gets to me. That does get to me. That's something that will always get to, I think, any mother, I think, is affected by that in some way. Simply because we all have our personal doubts anyway about what we're doing. And so I think when other people come around and say, yeah, you're a crappy mother, it's easier for your mind to accept that than it is to fight it with all your might and just dismiss it. And so it's awful. Oh yes.
Yeah, kids are very confused
Kids
within
are
our society.
confused.
I think what we're seeing, John, is we're seeing a stress response in society, and I think that's what I don't know what else to call it. I'm not a psychologist. I don't, you know, I just know that people are responding in a way that I think we need to pay attention to.
It's getting worse. I mean, like for
people
us,
are crying out.
When we were younger, the acting out was getting drunk, getting high, having sex, you know, putting ourselves in dangerous situations. And for them, it's transition. It's pretending.
That's like it's the kids' rebellion.
It's the rebellion. It's the kids' rebellion, and then you're dealing with, but it's a new form now. And
yeah,
I
mean, but it has similar characteristics to the things that we did that shocked our parents. It has that same shock value.
Yes.
To, you know what I mean, to this generation's parents.
And to hurt your parents, because that's what you want to do as a teenager. You want to hurt your parents. There's something, a lot of teenagers have that innately, especially around 15. It's like it revs up. I mean, like my 15-year-old loves me, but oh my goodness, does he fight me on pretty much everything? I mean, it's like he's in that right now. He's in that dead center of it, where it's like, you know, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. And so, what are you gonna do?
So I would love for you to come back and give us like an update on what's going on. You know,
I'll keep you updated.
Keep us up, you know, keep us informed about what's going on with your son. We'll keep him in our, you know, keep him in our thoughts and you know, like positive healing energy towards, you know, towards him. And I hope that he finds whatever it is that he needs to get himself to feel, you know, his best and happy and all of that. Where can everybody find you?
Oh, wow. Well, I don't even, I should have looked this up. If you give me a second. Well, my Twitter handle is at CLConover80. And I also have a Substack where I write. And
if you want to send them over to Steve and DM, we can add them to the show notes, and that way anybody, even everyone watching after, can find you at those places. That's awesome.
Yes, my Substack is Courtney L. Conover at Substack.com. So that's what my Substack is, and I do a lot of writing on political issues and other issues. And so
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for, you know, just being a part of this community. You know, like I really love that our community members like can come on and share their experience. And, you know, it's really amazing to have like just an online community, people that like we are like-minded enough and we agree on enough things, not 100% of things.
Yeah.
You know, because we're not in an echo chamber at all. Like, it's just not. Like, we get in our little things here and there, and, you know, but the thing is that we agree on enough things to have a community around that.
Including that everybody has the right to a different opinion.
Yeah. Like, that's part of it. Like I'm sure we could find plenty of things that we disagree about.
Of course.
you know, but like, you know, I want to, you know, I love that we have this community. It's a diverse community, and you know, everybody, you know, the door is open for people to come and, you know, really be able to express who they are, um and be a part of it. And I love that. So all right, you stay right there. We're gonna say goodbye to the people. Steve, did you have anything you want to say?
No, I'm not really. Tune in on afternoons because I've been going live on the Rumbles.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Good music, really good music. Listen to Steve.
Listen to Courtney. She knows what she's talking about.
Yeah. And go buy a Stop the Bulge shirt from Charlotte.
Stop the bulge. Stop the bulge. Buy this from Charlotte. There you go.
I mean, come on.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, what the hell?
Take care, everybody.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you later. Please hit that like button on your way out, whatever platform you are watching this on.